Hi, everybody. I'm Jean Ketchum, aging but dangerous. And I have got Todd Larson with me today, and we've talked several times. And he is a Medicare sales executive with Alina Aetna. And he is going to talk about understanding prescription drug coverage and the donut hole. So, Todd, this is going to be interesting. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Jean. Pleasure to be here. I've enjoyed the times that we've spent together. I love talking about Medicare.
I
can talk a
know.
long time about it, but it's a pleasure, and I hope that I'll be able to impart some information on pharmacy today. It's a big topic in the Medicare space. It's something that's really important, and hopefully we'll be able to speak to some things that will be helpful for your viewership and membership as they consider their Medicare options this year.
Yeah, and we really need it. This is just such an important subject. Okay, tell me, Todd, what is the donut hole? What is that?
Yeah, you bet. So everybody talks about or not everybody, but a lot of people talk about the donut hole, Gene, and really it's an element within prescription drug coverage that can happen to some people. Ironically and interestingly enough, it really only happens to about 10% of the body of persons who are on Medicare. So you might hear a friend, oh, I landed in the donut hole, or they're talking about the donut hole. I'm not exactly sure what it means. Seems like maybe I'm paying more. I'm not sure. So there are elements about it that that people get a little bit unfrazzled about, or they get a little concerned or worried. Is it going to hit me? Is it affect me? It's really what it really is, Gene, is Centers for Medicare and Medicaid. They basically they help to kind of drive and style the way our Medicare benefits are structured. And with the donut hole, it was essentially a process in really helping people to participate and play in the cost of their medications. And really, it's just that we as an insurer and the federal government, we keep track of the costs of medications. And as people have more medications, they might land in this donut hole. And at that point, they're just taking a bigger part in the cost sharing of those medications, i.e., you're paying a little bit more. And that's kind of what's happening.
Well, how do I know if I'm in the donut hole?
Yeah, great question. So you will know that you're in the donut hole because your insurer will likely kind of alert you, and you might see it when you go in to fill your prescription. So I have a few slides that I'll share with you, and we can key those up here in a few minutes, but I'll just kind of broadly speak to it. And that is that there's a number that the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid have set as kind of, once you've achieved this level of costs in your prescriptions, you're going to be in the donut hole. And it just means that at that point, you're going to share in that bigger cost sharing level for that period. So likely your pharmacist might tell you that, you're going to go up and you're going to fill your prescription, Gene, and you're going to say, hey, that thing only cost me $5 last time for my copay. Why am I paying $45 for it today? Well, it looks like you have landed in the donut hole, and I think they produced a higher level of professional lingo.
I was going to say, Todd, because that has happened to us. But I was going to say, do they actually use that term, donut hole? What do they?
Yeah, I don't know if the pharmacists do. They probably do. Some do, some don't. The term that we use now more often is the coverage gap. And it just means that, think about it, that you're getting coverage from your insurer, and all of a sudden there's going to be a little gap in your coverage. There's going to be this little element or this time frame that you're going to fall into a space where you've got a little less coverage than you did prior to. So you'll know it because you'll have to pay a little bit more, and then you'll probably call your insurer. You'll call the member services number on the back of your ID card. And you'll say, what's the deal? Why was my copay $5 and now it's $45? Same medication, same strength.
Yeah.
Same number of pills. Well, it looks like your expenses for prescriptions have exceeded what we consider the coverage gap threshold.
Mm-hmm. And that just happened to us, Todd. That just happened to us like 2 weeks ago, and my husband's calling the insurer saying, what is this all about? This was crazy.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and to your point, Gene. So what happens is that so think about it as the insurance company is keeping track of the total costs of your prescriptions, not just one of them, not just your lisinopril, but also your Xarelto and also your, whatever else you're taking, the medications you got. They're keeping track of those scripts. And once they see what the total cost of those prescriptions are, if it exceeds a particular number, then you land in the coverage gap. And what happens is oftentimes people sail through the first 6 months of the year because they haven't touched it. Maybe it's 9 months of the year. However, in some cases, some people hit the coverage gap in the first month. Those are folks that have, some of the super, maybe cancer busting drugs, the specialty medications, the medications that we oftentimes think about that are, more expensive in scope. And so you'll land there and you'll then you'll know it. And then there's going to be this period. And so I mentioned at the front end of the conversation that about 10% of our membership gets there, right? And I'll just say, and let me, now I'm going to take it one step back further, Gene. I'm going to talk just a little bit about the structure of your pharmacy plan. So when you think about when you're buying your prescriptions, Gene, oftentimes you're paying a relatively low copay for your prescriptions. On Medicare, they usually define it in 5 different tiers: tier 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The lower the cost of the medication, the lower the tier. The higher the cost of the medication, the higher the tier. So your tier 1 and tier 2 are usually your generic drugs, and they're usually the medications that retail for maybe around 30 to 40 bucks. They're usually relatively inexpensive drugs. They're usually generics. They're preferred or standard generics, lower cost. Tier 4 or tiers, so that's 1 and 2. Tiers 3 and 4 are usually your brand medications. They typically retail for about 150 bucks and north of that.
Yeah.
And then your 5th tier is usually your specialty medication. It's the cancer busting drugs. It's the specialty meds. It's maybe medication for some of the neurological conditions like muscular dystrophy, different things that control people's, behaviors, et cetera. But I mean, or just say muscle functions, those kinds of things. So you think about it, if my medications are in tier 1 and 2, they're probably generics. They probably retail for about 30 bucks. The chances of me getting to the donor hole is pretty limited. I'll tell you that number. I've got it on a slide here, but I'll tell you the number. It's essentially for this next year in 2022, the donut hole number will be $4,430. So if your medications add up to more than $4,430 in the course of the year, you're going to land in that coverage gap.
Well, so what is it now? If it's not the 4,000, what is it?
Yeah, it's I'm going to actually show you the slide. I just was looking at it. I see I've got the 2021 slide.
Okay. Well, has it gone down or has it gone up?
Goes up a little bit. So Medicare raises it up a little bit each year. And basically, so it went up about 150 bucks, something like that, in terms of where that ceiling is. And that's a good thing, that it kind of protects you a little longer in your regular insured copay level.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened, was that my husband had an expensive drug with I don't even know now what, but yeah, it was probably in that 4. It wasn't 5, but it was in the 4, and it was very, it was like, woo, we got really.
You bet. It's not unusual, Gene. I'll call out a couple of the medications that oftentimes fall in tiers 3 and 4 that are common to millions of Americans. One of them is the inhaler types of medications, things that control bronchial functioning, asthmatic conditions. I mean, we know so many people that suffer from those types of conditions, right? Yeah. Those doggone inhalers, they're expensive, and hopefully they'll continue to push from brand to generic and get more products on the market. But right now, most of those fall in tier 3. So those medications are ranging anywhere from maybe $150 to $500 in their retail value. And so you can start to think about, okay, if I get a $500 inhaler every month for 6 months, $500, that's $3,000, right? It pushes me towards that $4,430 limit, right? Yeah. The other medications that are out there are the insulins for our diabetics. Many of those medications sit on tiers 3 and 4. We've sophisticated insulin administration in terms of the gap, I mean, I should say the technology, the monitors, the products themselves, the way they're injected, et cetera. They're branded and they're expensive. And I think we're, as an industry and as an, as a country, we're trying to push that further along so that it's less expensive for them. But lots of those folks land in the donut hole. So then what happens when you're in the donut hole? So you've been paying a copay for that prescription drug coverage, and all of a sudden now you're paying a percentage, Gene, and that's what happened to your husband. The percentage that you're paying when you land in that coverage gap is 25. And that's improved over the course of the last several years. When the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid started it, they basically had it at a higher ceiling. You paid like 35%. Each year that's kind of dwindled its way down. Now you're going to pay 25%. So if that inhaler is $500, your copay before on tier 3 might have been, let's say, $50. Now you're going to pay 25% of that 500, so your cost is 100 and a quarter, right? That's what you're going to be paying. And so you stay in this coverage gap for a fairly, it's a period of time. And what it is when your medications get to 7,000, when your expenses, the copays you've paid, the 25% you've paid, your costs as an individual, when they exceed $7,050, then you land in this catastrophic stage that the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid have structured. And when you get there, you're paying a very small copay for those medications. You're not paying 25% anymore. It's a protection for you. Now you're paying $3 and some change for generics, $8 and some change or $9 and some change for brands. And so then you get to a protection. But gosh, to get there, I spent $7,000 myself on my medication. So it's a big chunk. It's a big
Huge.
It's huge. It's huge. And here's one of the things I'll say, so Gene, that I work for, my parent organization, Allina Health Aetna, and Aetna is a large insurer across the country. We of course administer prescription drug plans. We happen to be part of the CVS Caremark prescription drug benefit organization. And then we also have the Silver Script prescription drug plans, right? And so there are different types of prescription drug plans that are out there for Medicare beneficiaries. Some are in their Advantage plans that we talked about last time. Some are standalone as prescription drugs. We happen to be the owners of the Silver Script plan as a company of Aetna. And what I'll say about kind of all of this is that regardless of the prescription drug plan you choose, you're still going to have these elements of the coverage gap. And each year in this industry, I'll have my members call me and they'll say, Todd, why am I paying so much more for my prescription drugs? Let's talk a little bit about it. Jim, let's talk about your situation. What are your meds right now? How many do you take? Okay, boom. I can tell that you've landed in the coverage gap. Now you're probably paying 25%. Well, I got to have a different plan, Todd. I'm not going to be able to stay on this plan, or I should say, what are my other options? Is there a cheaper option out there? And generally, if you're on medications that are getting you into a coverage gap, changing your prescription drug provider may or may not make a difference. One of the things I'll oftentimes talk about is the Formulary of Medications, and you've probably heard about that. The formulary is just our list of drugs, depending on the plan that you're on, whether you're with an Aetna plan or you're on a Silver Script prescription drug plan or you're on one of the other national plans. The elements for being in the donut hole or the coverage gap and then that catastrophic coverage really won't change. Those ceilings will be there, but the formularies might a little bit. You can imagine that most organizations cover the same medications. We all have to cover the classes of coverage, so being able to treat blood pressure, being able to treat cholesterol, being able to treat muscular dystrophy, whatever it is, those classes, we're going to have medications in each of them. But each of the plans might cover them a little bit differently in the copay and in the tiering. So,
it's something that you should check into. That you should, this is what I think so interesting, Todd, about talking to you, is, and to Benita, is that we're learning that there's so much out there. We're learning that there's things that we can do, that it
Yeah,
doesn't have to stay the same. Here
you
I
bet.
am, 82. I signed up at 65. I didn't know I could change, or I didn't know I could check into it like this. So I think it's so, and then of course we have so many followers that are just turning 65 that this is important for them to know, and they will know all
Yeah.
this when they sign up. But gosh, there's so many people out there that didn't know they could change or didn't know what was available.
Yeah.
So this is just so important, such good
Yeah.
information.
Yeah, no, good. I appreciate it. And you're exactly right, Gene. It's like there are certain things that you may or may not be able to change. Obviously, you may not be able to change your conditions, right? Your doctor's
Right,
treating you. He's helping you with your diabetes. He's helping you with your cholesterol, your blood pressure. He has you on treatment categories. Some of those things may not go away. Some, of course, we're all about lifestyle and eating right and good behaviors and getting our activity in and all those things. All of those help tremendous amount. Your doctor tells you that, right? Everybody
right.
reminds us of those things. But when it comes to conditions you might have from your genetics, you might it just might be in your future in terms of these, walking down this path towards this area. But the things that, to your point, Gene, that you can control are you can be aware, you can be engaged, and some of the things that I'll point out just for consumers is so you can think about one plan over another plan might have your drug in a different tier. So it might be in my plan that my drug is a tier 2 and it's a $5 copay, and over in plan ABC, it's a tier 5, or no, not tier 5, it won't be that, but it might be tier 3 where you're going
Yeah,
to pay $50. Okay,
okay.
so each of the plans kind of categorize where they're going to seat their tiering, and it's pretty consistent across the board. But then you'll have this opportunity to kind of evaluate and decide. You can make those. Oh, sorry, probably, pardon me. What I wanted to say is just that the reality is the retail value of those medications doesn't change a tremendous amount. What our company might purchase that product at and what ABC company might purchase it, it's going to probably be pretty much the same. So when we're keeping track of kind of the retail expense to get you to the 4,430, it's kind of the same across the board. But you can do some things. There are things you can do. And one of the things is, first of all, learn your formulary for the plans, know which tier your drug falls in, see if that is a fit for you. Because a lot of people, like I say, 90% of the membership doesn't even get to the coverage gap. So now it is about, what's my copay? Is my copay going to be 50 or is it going to be 10? I want the 10, of course. The other thing is, if you land in the coverage gap, there are some retailers that might have the cost of that medication for less. It might be set up a little bit differently depending on the retailer themselves. For example, some of the major national discounters who process many, lots of medications. I'll call out the brands here. I don't know if that's kosher or not, but like the
No, because I was
Walmart.
going to ask you,
Yeah, yeah,
can you do
for
that?
sure. Like the Costco's and the Walmarts and those types of organizations, they may find that medication cheaper. And here again, now if I'm paying a percentage, if I'm in that 10% that's landed in the coverage gap, and I'm paying 25% of the medication, I'd rather pay 25% of $100 than 25% of $150. There may not be that dramatic of a difference, but sometimes doing a little research as a consumer, calling my Costco, calling my Walmart, calling my CVS and saying, what is the retail value of that medication? You might be able to find it a little less expensive while you're there. And
We found a huge difference. I
yeah,
won't mention the names, but we found a huge difference
yeah,
between the prescription drugs with those kinds of places.
for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
You bet. The other thing that I'll call out and that some people will be aware of is that there are products out there that are drug discount products as well. They're things that actually happen at the pharmacy. You might have heard of the product like GoodRx. That's one of the drug discounters out there. And you typically those types of organizations you don't use them. I should say intertwined with your Medicare product. They are something that there are some people will say, I'm going to look for another way, another source of getting my medication. You can't double dip. You can't run it through one insurance company and then a second, but there are some ways in which you might be able to find that medication out in the market cheaper. Another thing I'll mention is that in some instances, some of the manufacturers offer products for beneficiaries direct, through a prescription, of course, with the physician, but sometimes working with some of the major pharma organizations. There are some medications, and these are some of the medications that are tier 4 and tier 5, some of the specialty medications. And it's basically helping those consumers to get the products that the manufacturer sells and offers, of course, but also to help those individuals. And you can ask your insurance representative, a person like myself, or the insurance company themselves, because there are some of those that exist for some of the expensive insulins and things like that. Now you're kind of stepping out of the insurance product that you've purchased through Medicare, or your Medicare Advantage plan or your prescription drug plan, and you're going direct to the manufacturer. But those do exist, not all the times, but in some cases they can.
And this exactly is, and we want to say this several times, is the type of thing that somebody can call you, email you, make an appointment, and sit down and talk. You can talk to them about their plan and about what you offer, and you can just really help analyze, their whole plan, right? I mean, I don't think people really knew they could sit down. I mean, when Social Security, you can go to the Social Security office, you can sit there, talk to someone. I'm not sure people really knew, because I didn't, that you could call up person like you and sit down, make an appointment and sit down and talk about your Medicare plan. That, I think that's just so huge.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks for saying that, Gene. You bet. It's what we do, and so the beauty of it is that there's no cost to folks to have those conversations, right? We're having them every day, all the time, and obviously I'm an employee of the Allina Health Aetna organization, but even we also use a number of independents within the industry, and they too typically don't charge. It just depends on their services, but they also are being paid by the insurer to bring you in as a consumer, hopefully as a member, et cetera. And so, it really, it's absolutely worth just having that conversation. I'm a huge proponent of not buying more insurance than you need, but it's also important to know that you're getting enough insurance for what you do need, and having that, doing those analytics on a maybe a biannual basis, every 2 years, or even, every year. You've got the option. What the heck, why not?
I know. And you're getting older and things are changing. I mean, I'm telling you, I just think, I think I'm kind of up on things. And then I hear this stuff. I'm like, good Lord, I just had no idea that you could go over different plans, that there were different things, offered. I mean, this is like huge. Do you have your information of how people can get a hold of you?
Yeah, I do. And actually, so I'm gonna pull up a couple screens. So here's my contact information. Can you see it, Gene?
No, I don't see it. It's not on there.
Let's see here. I probably have to make it myself. Let me just see here. Okay, and we've got me as the co-host. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay, hang on here. Let me just confirm here.
Yeah, it worked the other day.
We sure had it here just the other day. I want to share my screen. That's what I'm going to do here for us. So just bear with me here.
Yeah.
Okay. I apologize for that pause.
No, there you go. Okay, perfect. There you are.
Okay, very good. So here's my contact information, Gene. So my name's Todd Larson, and I'm with the Allina Health Aetna Medicare. But my phone number there is 612-845-2296. And I know we've got a contingent of folks that are here in Minnesota. I know that we've got a contingent of folks watching nationally. I am with Aetna, and so if you had a need, like I said, much of my focus is here in Minnesota and in Wisconsin, but certainly could help probably navigate some folks to Aetna. But I'd encourage you, if you're looking for a plan, take a look at the Aetna plans. We are in each and every state of the United States and do business throughout the country. So really good plan options.
That's perfect.
Yeah,
that's
very
perfect,
good.
Todd. Yeah, thanks.
If we've got just another minute here, I was just going to share.
No, we've got plenty of time.
Okay, let me just go through. I was just going to, we talked about the ABCs of Medicare, but what I was going to say is, so when we're talking prescriptions, you've got these two options really, Gene, in terms of most folks are either picking up their prescription drug coverage through a standalone prescription drug plan, like in this box in number one. So you're going out and you're buying a prescription drug plan, but many people in Minnesota and throughout the nation are buying their prescription drug coverage through an Advantage plan. And because it packages it up and makes it, kind of seamless. So those are the two ways that people typically pick up their prescription drug coverage. And it's important that they do, because it's important to get prescription drug coverage, even if you're one of those people who says, I don't take a pill, I don't need that, I don't want to pay for that. But the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, they want you to have it, and they want to ensure that you're going to have coverage when you need it. And so they basically impose this penalty if when you turn 65, you don't do take one of these options, either a standalone plan or an Advantage plan, then you run the risk of having a penalty later. Now, if you have creditable coverage, like as a military veteran through the VA, no worries. You don't have to go out and purchase one of these products. But if you're like most of us, or many of us who aren't one of the veterans in our country, then you will want to purchase something so that you don't incur that penalty over time. And 10 years from now, you call me and say, hey, I'd like to get a prescription drug plan, Todd. My doctor says I need these meds. And I say, for sure, you can enter, no problem. Just know that you're gonna be getting a penalty coming from the federal government because of it. So that's kind of an important thing. This was that slide. I don't know if you can see all of it here, if our pics are there, but basically this is that slide kind of speaking to the coverage levels, Gene.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah.
You got it. So it's just that my numbers here, that's the numbers, 4130, that's the coverage gap today. Next year it'll be 4430. So they raised it a couple $100, which is a benefit to the beneficiary, because you're staying in the copay slot more for a greater length of time. And then of course the catastrophic space is when you've exceeded the expenses of 7,050, and right now it's 6,550. So anyway, we've kind of hit that. And then of course we talked about making sure you understand what the formulary looks like. Is my drug on the formulary, and what tier is it, and understanding what that will look like. So those are kind of the key nuggets that we've talked about here today.
Mm-hmm. Well, very, very interesting. God help all of us as we're aging. Sure seems like we're all on a lot of medication,
Right. Yeah, it's for sure. It's a thing, right? And it's an important part of it, right? And of course we all want to have the best of health and have great long lifespan, and medications are so necessary for so many of us, and bring such great quality of life for us. So it's just understanding it, kind of knowing it. Some key things can carry you a long way. Just knowing.
How long have you been doing this, Todd?
So I've been doing it for 25 plus years. I've enjoyed a career in the industry. I did much of my career on the commercial side, managing employer groups, and some of them had Medicare plans that they offered through the employers. And it's interesting, some of the great big companies here in Minnesota used to be in my portfolio. And now I'm getting calls from their employees, their retired employees, saying, they've stopped covering my Medicare plan. What do I do? And I'll say, we can help you. There's
that's great. But
yeah,
that's
for sure.
Great.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah. Well, I'm just so thrilled that we're getting to talk to you all, because it's huge. It's just huge, and we can really spread the word on this. So
well, that's awesome. Well, Gene, if you've got folks on in your organization that are looking for help, I'd love to help any and all of them. Give me a call. Again, I'm at 612-845-2296. I'm local here to the Twin City market, and really have enjoyed my career here. We've got very fine insurance products available in the market. Not one necessarily always suits everyone. My product, might be a perfect fit for most, but there might be some that it's just not a perfect fit. But for that, we've got really good product in the market. So, but we love chatting with folks and sharing kind of the information we know, and and how we can help them. So.
Well, and just the fact that everybody needs to know that there's different plans out there and there's different things to choose from. I don't think people know that. I mean, unless I've been in the dark ages for a long time, I just
Yeah.
don't think they know it. And it's there's so much to learn here, and to meet with you and go over this would be so huge. And it's a
Yeah. Yeah.
free
Awesome.
meeting,
Awesome.
and
Yep.
yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely would love that. You bet. You bet. We've got.
so.
Yep.
Well, Todd, thank you. And I think we're going to talk again in a couple of weeks.
I think we are. You bet. Yeah. Yeah.
We're
Look forward to it.
we're getting spoiled having you come and talk to us. It's so great. So,
Absolutely my pleasure. Anything else you can think of, Gene, that we didn't cover off on today, or anything that?
no, I think you explained it all so well. I mean, I don't always understand all these things, but you really explained it very well.
Okay,
I
great,
just,
great.
enjoyed that. So,
Well, if you get feedback from any of your membership that they're looking for some specific cover off, we'll have another opportunity to gather, and I'm
yeah,
happy to pick up on anything that we might not have covered here today. But
yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
I look forward to it.
Well, thank you, Todd.
All right, thank you, Gene. It's been my pleasure. I look forward to the next time.
Yes, me too. Have a great day.
All right, thank you. You too.